So today we're looking at Palm Sunday, and the reading for Palm Sunday is the beginning of the 21st chapter of Matthew's Gospel. And it's really a stepping stone kind of a moment here. So if you stay with me for the whole next 7 or 8 minutes, I'm not going to kind of get you to an end point. And I'm not even going to get you to the start point. It's kind of stuff that's already started. And we're going to lead into Easter, end up on the cross. That's where it's going to kind of the momentum will start, and it's all about the redefinition of kingship. Really, Jesus in what happens is redefining kingship, and all sorts of Old Testament images come into play in what he's doing. But I'll start by reading the verses. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you'll find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, tell him that the Lord needs them and he'll send them right away." This took place to fulfill what was said in the prophet, "Say to the daughter of Zion, see your king comes to you gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of the donkey." And the disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. So, yes, this is Jesus fulfilling an Old Testament prophecy, but it's not like, oh, what an extraordinary coincidence. Jesus fulfilled this prophecy. He means to fulfill the prophecy. He knows what it says. Zechariah is not actually the biggest or the most major prophet. He was a prophet after the exile, about the return of Jerusalem and the Jerusalem nation around Jerusalem. And this is a slightly messianic one, as in what would a king... Now, there's the link between king and Messiah. Messiah means anointed one. Kings were anointed in ancient Israel. So what would a king be doing? What would he look like? Well, he would come riding on a donkey. So on the one hand, yes, it's a sign of humility. It's not an almighty stallion, but it's stuck there in the Old Testament scriptures. And notice that this is planned by Jesus. You see that kind of plan, and he says, he tells the disciples to go ahead of them, and he's got something already ready for them. So this happens a few times in the next few days. He has planned what is going to happen. He's slightly pulling the strings, forcing a certain kind of encounter. The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt, placed their cloaks on them, and Jesus sat on them. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them out on the road. Now, again, you need a little bit of background imagery. And I suppose when I'm talking about this background imagery, you can kind of think, oh, did they really know this? But I think they did. It's like if a politician today says, well, we've got to fight the coronavirus and we're going to use the Blitz spirit or the spirit of Dunkirk. They are references which we just kind of get. We don't... you don't need someone to explain to you, oh, what is the Blitz spirit? You kind of just know. You don't know when you learned what it was, but you just kind of know. Now, in this case, when they spread the cloaks underneath, what we see in the second book of Kings, it's chapter 9, someone claiming to be a king. What do a crowd do to respond to someone claiming to be a king? Well, they put their cloaks underneath. So it's not just a chance, it's not just to Walter Riley, oh, look, it's a bit muddy, can I put my cloak underneath you? No, it's kind of, okay, we think you're a king. And then this is confirmed again when the crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, "Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest." And just unpick that. Hosanna just means, praise. But to the Son of David, David as in King David, the first king of the United Israel. So who is this guy? He is someone we are acclaiming as king. And when Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" The crowds answered, "This is Jesus the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." So in a way that encapsulates it. He's moving from prophet into king. And he's making a big stir as he does this. I often think, actually, if you're highbrow, the art you will start looking for, the art form might be the St. Matthew Passion by Bach. But I think... the musical, the Rice and Lloyd Webber musical Jesus Christ Superstar, I think is really perceptive about this stuff. I mean, Tim Rice wouldn't claim to be a theologian, but he's got very good instincts. And they've got this number, Hosanna, and it kind of goes in. If you listen to that, I think it captures the essence of what's happening at this moment, that Jesus is kind of saying, yeah, bring it on. I'm creating a stir, I'm pulling the strings. And we know that this had impact, because this claim to be a king, remember when he gets to the cross, on the cross is the inscription, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, and the Gospels tell us it was in Latin, it was in Greek, and it was in Hebrew. That is the charge which leads to his capital sentence. And there are two forces that at the crux are finding this difficult. The first really is the Romans. How would you feel if you're the Roman governor, you're sent out to Judea on behalf of the emperor to govern this unruly province, but you want them to be basically obedient to the emperor and ultimately answerable to the Roman Empire, which is at the center, kind of sucking up authority. Someone claiming to be a king, nothing to do with you, claiming heritage from David, that is a challenge to your authority. So that's the first one. And the second is the one that Jesus goes to next. After this, he goes straight, continues on the road from the Mount of Olives into the temple, and he starts challenging the temple about their religious practices. And that is something that they don't take kindly to. And they are political animals. They know that they have got a sort of uneasy peace agreed with the Romans, and this is being threatened by Jesus of Nazareth, this prophet. So once you've reached this reading and Palm Sunday, the momentum is unstoppable. And there is a little bit of an aspect of the fickleness of human nature that here, it's in the hymn, what is it? His sweet praises sing, Hosanna all the day, Hosannas to their King. And then crucifies all their breath, and for his death they thirst and cry. There's something about the fickleness of crowds. There's also something, I think, which is an understandable mistake, that Jesus introduces the concept of kingship, and they have kind of slots that they put kings into of their own expectations of what kings are, and then Jesus will be redefining that. And he continues to redefine it. We're still almost living out the redefinition of what a kingdom is in the kingdom of Jesus of Nazareth, as he's asked us to do it. So that's really where we end. We're just setting ourselves up, getting into Holy Week, getting into Maundy Thursday, Good Friday and the cross, and eventually the resurrection. That Jesus is saying, yes, I'm a king. He's provoking a confrontation. And eventually it all hinges on the redefinition of what kingship is and means.